All right, 7th graders, we are in section 3 and we're learning the last method to solving a system of equations. We've already talked about graphing, substitution, and now we're going to talk about elimination. Now I want to make note though that sometimes you'll hear this called the addition method or linear combination. It all means the same thing, but to me, elimination and addition method kind of go hand in hand in proving what you want to do. Now, when adding or subtracting to solve systems, you can use the addition and subtraction properties of equality to solve a system by the elimination method. You can add or subtract to eliminate a variable. That's important. The whole goal of doing this is eliminating a variable. So example number 1, we're going to just combine these two terms together. Now I'm actually going to rewrite them because to me it's too small. Now, I will have you write down steps first, steps in a little bit after we first solve this equation. Step 1. Step 1 will always be to make sure that everything is lined up. The x's, the y's, the equal sign, and the numbers. Both of these equations are in standard form, so because they're in standard form, they are lined up. Now, your equations do not have to be in standard form to be lined up, but most of the time, a lot of students will automatically put them in standard form. Once they're in standard form, the whole purpose is to basically smush the equations together, add them together, to make a variable cancel. Now in this case, if you actually add these together, 5x plus 3x, that gives me 8x. Negative 6y plus 6y are opposite coefficients, therefore they cancel. And then 48 minus 32 gives me 16. You'll notice what happened is the y's cancel, which is what we want. So now we just solve for x. X is going to be 2. But we still need to find y. So in order to do that, I can take this 2 and plug it into either one of these equations. It doesn't matter which one. I'm just going to take it and plug it in to the second equation. Now you can do a lot of this in your head. So 3 times 2, that gives me 6 plus 6y equals 48. We can solve that on our own. Subtract 2 or 6, we get 42. 42 divided by 6 gives me 7. So we know that this answer is going to be the ordered pair 2, 7. Let's do part B of the first example. Let's do another one. Everything is lined up, and you'll notice that once again, I have coefficients here that are exactly the opposites of each other. That's actually going to be step 2. Step 2 will be making sure that something is going to cancel. If I combine them together, the x's cancel, and I get 2y equals 6. If I solve that, I get y equals 3. So now I take this and plug it in. I'm just going to plug it into the first one. That gives me 6x minus 9 equals 3. 6x equals 12. And x equals 2. Therefore, my answer would be the point 2, 3. Example 2. Of course, we're going to have a real-world problem. So here we go. Suppose your community sells tickets, a total of 292 tickets for a basketball game. An adult ticket costs $3, and a student ticket costs $1. The sponsors collect $470 in ticket sales. Write and solve a system to find the number of type of each ticket sold. Right off the bat, what do we need to find? We need to find an adult ticket and a student ticket. So I'm going to use the variables A and S. So what do we know first? We know we have a total of 292 tickets. Well, I automatically know that I have A tickets for adults and S tickets for students. So A plus S would have to give me a total of 292 tickets. Now, adult tickets cost $3 each, so my second equation is going to do with money. So $3 each, plus a student ticket is $1 each, so my coefficient is 1, equals a total of 470 tickets. I'm sorry, $470. But here's the problem. This is where step 2 comes into play. You'll notice that nothing cancels. This is important. Everything's lined up, but notice here that they're both plus s's. So what you have to do is something you learned such a long time ago. Off to the side, I'm going to write down two fractions. 1/2 and 4/8, you do not need to write these down. Are they the same fraction? You better believe they are. Because you can multiply anything to a fraction as long as you do it to the top and bottom. The same is true for an equation. If I gave you an equation that said a plus y equals 5, and I multiplied everything by 2, 2a plus 2y equals 10, these are the exact same equation. They're just different ways to write them, equivalent equations. So I can manipulate my equations here. I need to make something cancel. So what I'm going to do is look to see what would cancel. What would be easiest to cancel? Well, the s's I think would be easy to cancel because all I have to do is make one of them a negative s. So I'm going to multiply the bottom equation by a negative to give myself an equivalent equation. And I'm going to write it off to the side. This is what I suggest you do, is write it to the side so you can stay organized. I'm going to multiply everything by a negative. My top equation stays the same. And notice what happens now as you combine your equations together. A minus 3a gives me negative 2a. My s's cancel. And negative 470 plus 292 gives me negative 178. I divide both sides by negative 2, I get a equals 89. So what does that mean? I have 89 adult tickets. So I have a total of 292. So I can take 292 minus 89, and that gives me student tickets as 203 student tickets. Which leads into what we're going to be doing next. We have to multiply equations by some number to make something cancel. So I'm going to give you these two equations. Everything is lined up still. I'm making it easy on you with that. Everything is lined up. So here's what we're going to do. This is where you just got to be smart and use your brain and use what you know about manipulating things. If you wanted to get rid of the x's, you would have to make these two numbers the opposite of each other. So what's the first number 2 and 10 goes into? You're almost doing like least common multiple from elementary school. 10 is the first number that both these numbers go into. So I can leave this one as 10x, and you can multiply the first equation by negative 5 to give you negative 10x. Or, if you wanted to get rid of your y's, you could make one of these positive 15 and negative 15. So you could multiply the top equation by 3 and the bottom equation by negative 5 to make these opposite of each other. But the x's are much easier to do. So I'm going to multiply everything in the top by negative 5, and I'm going to write it to the side. That gives me negative 10x minus 25y equals positive positive 110. And then my second equation stays the same. Why did I do that? Because now look at what we have. My x's canceled. They're opposites of each other. So negative 25 plus 3 gives me negative 22y equals 132. 132 divided by negative 22 gives me what? It gives me negative 6. So my y value is negative 6. Now I can take this negative 6 and plug it into this equation, this equation, this equation, or this equation. It doesn't matter. I'm going to plug it into the first equation. So negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. Solve this. This is easy. 2x equals 8. X would equal 4. So my final answer is 4, negative 6. Now in example 4, here is where everything is different. Step 1, line up the equations. Absolutely, you need to line them up. Personally, I like always putting them in standard form, but it's completely up to you. The top equation already is in standard form. The bottom equation, I just need to move the minus 7x by adding 7x. And that would give me 7x minus 3y equals negative 8. Step 2 is make something cancel. Now I know that seems very vague. But you'll notice here that nothing, the x's or the y's, cancel. So what I'm going to look at is I look at the x's. Because I have a 7 and 4, I have to make one of these positive 28 or one of them negative 28. But then I look at my y's. And I would need, since we have 3 and 2, to make one positive 6 and one negative 6. Because I already have a positive and negative, the y's would be easier to cancel. So what would you multiply to 2y to get 6y? You'd multiply by 3. What would you multiply to negative 3 to get negative 6? You'd multiply by 2. So if you multiply the top equation by 3, you get 12x plus 6y equals 42. The bottom equation by 2 would give me 14x minus 6y equals negative 16. If nothing cancels, if you don't have opposite coefficients, you did something wrong. The y's cancel. I get 26x equals 26. So x would be 1. I take the 1 and I plug it back in. I can plug it wherever I want. I'm going to plug it in right there. Negative 3y equals negative 8 minus 7. That gives me negative 3y equals negative 15, and y would equal 5. So my answer would be 1, 5. So then what was step 3? Step 3 was solve your equation. Step 4, find the remaining or the other variable. All right, do number 5 on your own if you would like. You can pause the video, do it yourself, and then check your work with me. Step 1. So what I would do first is line everything up. Now, this is completely up to you what you want to do. I look at this and say, okay, I'm just going to leave the first one the same. If you didn't do that, don't think that what you did was wrong. So in the bottom, I see that my 10x is already on the left side. My negative 7y is already on the right. So I need to move the plus 4 to the left side. So that gives me 4 plus 10x equals negative 7y. Everything is lined up. If you wanted to put it all in standard form, you could. So now I want to pick something to get rid of. To me, I can make the x's either both, let's see, 30 and negative 30, or I can multiply and make this negative and positive 21. I'm actually going to get rid of the x's. So to get rid of the x's, I'm going to make one negative 30, so that means negative 15 is going to be multiplied by 2, and 10x is going to be multiplied by, I want 30, so 3. That gives me 18 minus 30x equals 6y. And 12 plus 30x equals negative 21y. If I add those together, I don't get 20, I get 30, equals negative 15y. I divide by negative 15, I get negative 2 as my y value. So now I'm going to take that negative 2 and I'll plug it in. I'm going to plug it in right here. So 10x equals negative 4 minus b plus 14. 10x equals 10, x equals 1. So my answer for this equation, system of equations, would be 1, negative 2.